This is the instructional how-to video for Brian Ward. This is a video that's going to show you the operation of your brand new concession as well as the shutdown procedures. We're going to go ahead and start off up front on the generator itself. I want to turn the fuel pit cock to the on position as labeled right here. Always make sure you got good clean fuel, and I always recommend checking the oil. Very simple task, pulling that dipstick up, make sure unit is full of oil. Definitely want to take time to read over the manual for that unit for proper maintenance itself, oil changes. As far as startup on the unit, and I'm not going to run the unit today because the noise in the video, I've got hooked up to shore power itself. But what you would want to do is those three things, then followed by going ahead and plugging the power cord into this plug here, leaving this to the off position. You would pull your choke and then press your start. Once the unit is running, slowly push the choke fully back in, give it about 30 seconds, and then turn the power on through this fuse here, which is going to power the trailer itself. Once you're done for the end of the day, you're going to want to kind of go in reverse, turning this back off, and then turning the fuel pit cock to the sideways position and allowing the unit to run the fuel out of the carburetor. Once that's done, make sure you flip this switch back to the off position so it doesn't drain your battery itself. Got your concession window open, exterior lights on either side. Flip up counter set in place. For the flip up counter itself, once you get to the 90-degree mark, pressing upward allows these pins to roll outward. On the left side, that one's on the outside, and on the right side, this one's on the inside itself. Both of your propane tanks are empty. However, I do have a live tank here, and I've got the trailer tested and all of the equipment working here at this moment. You'll be able to see in just a moment itself. So before I ever turn the propane on, first thing I do is I go and check the equipment, make sure that everything is in the off position as it should be from the day before, or the however long it's been before you stop. Always have the equipment in the off position. But check it before you ever turn the propane on, and then first turn the hood system on itself. Then come out, and your gas valve, you're going to turn it, opening again, same thing for yours, rotating that all the way till it stops, and at that point you're pressurizing the line, which on startup is going to look just like this one. You're only going to want to run one tank at a time. So this is again the passenger side regulator, but you're always going to have that valve to the off position. And so when you open this valve, it's quarter turn straight up in line with the pipe itself. The most important thing you can do is listen to the regulator. Whichever regulator you're using at that moment, pay very close attention. The line should have nothing more than a line charge itself, which is shh. That's it. If you have continuous gas flow coming through this regulator at time of startup, immediately shut this off. Contact a local gas company to come out and inspect the piping. I mention this because the piping does run below the trailer, and road debris such as tires, blocks of wood, rocks, anything, if it hits that pipe at the proper speed, can damage, if not break the pipe, and could cause a very dangerous situation. So again, if you hear continuous gas flow coming in through this regulator on either side, whichever one you're using, immediately shut it off. Contact your local gas company. The reason I say this is if you let it go and that leak is below the trailer, because propane is heavy, it's going to stay low, and if a spark was to arise under the trailer, then you're sitting on top of an explosion, which could be fatal, potentially. So yes, propane is very, very dangerous. Before we go inside, I want to go ahead and go over the wastewater, which is here to the right side of the door. Removing the 3-inch RV cap, hooking up your 3-inch RV waste hose, then you can pull this gate valve out of the way and allow all the contents in the waste tank to drain out. Once that is completed, do shut that back up, remove the hose and put your cap back in place. For the city water fill, it is located right behind the entry door on the driver's side. This is the non-pressure side. This is for filling the freshwater tank and using the water pump itself. If you need to clean or sanitize the tank, you can do so through this port, putting a little bit of bleach in there. So this is the non-pressure side. If you are provided pressurized water continuously, you can hook up your food grade water hose to this port here and be able to bypass the tank and pump and have pressurized water at all times. Got your water heater plugged in. Made sure I had continuous water flow running through all faucets before I plugged that water heater in itself. Make sure it didn't get damaged. We also have the winterization valve for blowing the system out for wintertime, drain valve for the tank, and the tank valve itself. As you can see, the water level in the tank itself. We've got your 100 amp panel, all 20 amp independent circuits. So every circuit or every breaker goes to its own plug. Then we have the battery charger, we have the fuse panel for the 12 volt lighting system, and we have the battery itself. When plugged in, this battery charger is on, feeding power to that battery. Your cable can run down through that cable hatch, exiting the trailer itself instead of running outside of this door. That way you would be able to close the door itself. Water pump switch as soon as you turn the come inside the trailer itself. We'll go ahead and show you the hot water itself working. So we're over 120 degrees, still getting hot. Inside and out, interior and exterior light switches, and then your exhaust fan switch. Go ahead and show you the plugs. Of course, you've got your warming cabinet. It's at 139 degrees. Fire suppression tank. Right across from that is your sandwich prep. It's at a nice 36 degrees. I have the packages for the warming cabinet here in the fridge. Also the paperwork for the fire suppression system. We have the worktop fridge here, 34 degrees. Paperwork for the deep fryers and drain tubes in the bottom, and then we have all the paperwork for the equipment and generator up top. This is your work counter at the concession window itself. Stainless upper shelf. Control head for the fire suppression system. This system is live and ready to go. You will need to have your local fire suppression company as well as the fire marshal come out to your location for tagging the system to be legal in service. All of these nozzles are set for the equipment and do not need to be tampered with other than a licensed fire suppression company. Again, the exhaust fan's on. Also for the vents or the filters, they are removable and will need to be cleaned periodically. I would encourage, if not every day, every other day at most. That way you do not have grease buildup. You will clean them with hot water and a mild soap. Rinse them thoroughly and allow adequate time for them to dry. Just make sure that you always have the filters in place with the tightest, keeping them as tight as possible, as if you have any gaps spread out too much like so, grease blow by can go past those filters and get up into the top extraction fan and potentially cause a fire. For the top extraction fan, you want to have that set up on quarterly visits for proper maintenance and cleaning itself. What grease doesn't collect in these filters goes to the drip tray and runs to the drip cup, which needs to be monitored daily because it is right above your burners itself. For lighting the equipment, these two pieces are open pallets as soon as you turn the gas valve on outside. So with that being said, these are the main ones that you have to worry about as far as somebody accidentally turning that on or leaving it just at the slightest bit. You would have that much propane coming out. Again, so you always want these in the off position. You'll never force light any of this equipment. What I mean by force lighting is never turn it on until you have these pilot lights burning and that you can see. You'll take lighters like so that you need to keep on hand and administer your fire right to the backside, as you can see the pilot itself on both of those. Once you can see that your pilots are going, then you can turn the burners to the desired temp as needed. There is metal baling wire here wrapping the burners to the frame itself. Eventually, due to excessive heat, it will break. Make sure that you replace with more wire at that point. Other than that, do not remove the wire. It is there to keep the burners in place. For the griddle, same situation. Do not turn this on until the pilot is lit. You do have to remove the grease tray that is located here for lighting the pilot itself, which is right under here. You can see that blue flame, that is your pilot light. All you need to do is put your lighter at the tip of this here, and because propane again is heavy, that propane is going to fall and that will light that pilot itself. Once you can know that that pilot is lit, then you have where you can turn the burner on for that griddle to light. Just make sure that you do put this pan back in place so that any excess wasted product that you pull off and run to the drip tray, you have a tray to put it in. You also have a drip tray for the burners itself that you will need to monitor as well. For the fryers, I'll go ahead and show you how each one of those work and then explain how to light them. You'll be able to see the pilot lit. This is in the on position at this point. I'll go through all of these, and the last one I'll show you how to light the fryer itself. You do have a drain tube that is in each one of the bags in the countertop fridge behind me. It threads into here, allows you to open up and dump the vat or the contents in the vat. You need to do this each time that you move the trailer. Do not transport with oil in the vat itself. Alrighty, so for lighting the fryers, again at the initial startup, like I mentioned, these are always going to be in the off position from the day before. So as this is in the off position, do this twice. I do this for a reason. I want to make sure this thermostat's connected with this gas valve. Sometimes in transportation, with the obviously bouncing of a trailer itself, it could throw them off sequence. So if you do that twice, this could keep from any downtime. So once that's done, then you turn to where the pilot meets the red dot and allows you to push in. Now you have to hold this button in place and administer fire to your thermopile. Once that thermopile is actively lit, you will continue to hold this pilot button in place for about 10 to 15 seconds. Once you can slowly release the pilot button itself and keep your flame on your thermopile, then at that point, then you can turn to the on position, and when you are ready, you can activate the thermostat to the desired temp as needed. Again, the biggest thing is at the end of the day, just make sure that you go through and turn these fryers back to the off position so that pilot button is not open. I'm going to go ahead and turn the gas off itself. Never leave the gas on when the business is closed, and never leave it on in transportation. A couple other things on the propane cages. There is latches, and the tanks are strapped in place. Highly recommend always leaving the tank strapped in place. If you want to choose the straps out or change the straps out, you can, but definitely want them strapped, and make sure them latches are done. Since the gas is off, we can go ahead and turn the exhaust fan off. It's no longer needed at this moment. As far as shutdown procedure, I would recommend going ahead and turning the warming cabinet off. As mentioned, obviously the exhaust fan being turned off after the gas is turned off itself. Do make sure that you turn the AC unit off as well. The refrigeration you do not have to turn off. It will turn off with the trailer. It is not a hard startup on the initial itself anyways. Go ahead and turn off that water pump switch as well as the interior and exterior light switches. Anything that you have as loose items will need to be put in a safe place for transportation itself. Make sure you unlatch that door, latching it, removing any freshwater hoses if you have those, and as well as wastewater hoses, and putting caps and doors back in place. As I would always mention, make sure that your tail lights are always functioning, blinkers, brake lights, running lights, drive lights, so to speak. Also, you want to make sure that before transportation, because the way trailers flex and the axles flex, always make sure two things: make sure you have adequate air pressure in the tires, and also make sure each lug nut has been checked. Make sure they are thoroughly tight. All it takes is one lug nut to get loose, and all of them can come loose pretty easy. Again, it's a very simple task, just pre-checklist to do. Also, once a year, this rubber cap will need to be removed to apply grease to the zert fittings behind that rubber cap to allow for long-lasting bearing life itself. If you want to do it twice a year, please do so. At least once a year is recommended for sure. For shutdown of the counter, pressing upward allows that counter to rotate back to the downward position, and then being able to shut that concession door and lock it for proper transportation. We thank you for taking the time to view this video. Please feel free to reach out to us with any questions or concerns that you have. Make these videos to help show the customers before they get here or before a trailer is delivered what their trailer truly has, as well as everything functioning itself. There's many customers that have never operated this equipment before, so that is the other part of the video, to be able to help educate them or any of their new employees for how to safely use their equipment. Please take the time to read the manuals for the equipment itself, for proper maintenance and cleaning for all of the equipment. It's very, very critical. Again, if you do have any questions or concerns, do not hesitate to reach out to us at all. We'll be glad to help. We thank you so much for your business and wish you the very best.